Check. Oh, yeah. Welcome to Truth and Transparency. Going to give people some time to get in chat. You guys have asked for it, and this is going to be your rapid fire. 45 minutes to 60 minutes. Nothing but the Gabby and Brian case. Howdy, everybody. Mike dropping Mama Mod Squad. Yes, you are very welcome for it being early. Bumblebee's probably liking that as well. I got the Wheel of Fortune going, so it's my favorite. What's up, Gina? Shannon? Hopefully everybody's having a great Monday. You guys are my pregame party. Oh, what's up, Mama 3? Sarah, how you doing? Oh, boy. All right, guys, going to get started here in about 2 minutes. Again, rapid fire here. Thanks for all the new members. Thanks for all the new subscribers. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Make sure you guys thumbs down on it. And if you don't like it as well, be honest. And all you got to do for free is click that subscribe button. That way you can get the notifications as well. If you are one that likes to enjoy it in real time. Callie, what's up? Kylene. Just reading all of the descriptions. Yep, I put a lot in there for you guys. Figured I would keep us on, or I should say myself, on track here. Let's see. Yeah, and I was writing that super, super quick. So. 22 people in chat. Let's see, 22 thumbs up. Oh, yes, I like that. There you go. Or again, if you don't like it, you can thumbs down it, but either way, be honest. All right, let's get our brains flowing. The big question tonight that I'm going to raise is, what does finding Brian have to do with making sure that Gabby gets proper justice? That's the main question tonight, which is, what does finding Brian, whether his body is found dead or alive, what does that truly do in terms of, you know, getting Gabby proper justice? What's up, Jenny from the block? Boston, uh-oh. So I'll make sure I put this up for you guys. I'm going to try to type it up there for you guys. What's up, Patty? Again, what does finding Brian's body, whether it's dead or alive, have to do with proper justice for Gabby? The reason I believe that this is an important question to ask is because how many defendants, once they reach the stages of actually having a trial against themselves, and they find themselves as a defendant, how many of those defendants, high-profile cases, do you see a defendant actually taking the stand and testifying in trial, as well as, he already has a lawyer. He's clearly not going to be talking to any law enforcement. So, curious to see what you guys think here. Hello there to our Long Island in the house. And I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with saying that I think so, there you go, Bumblebee. Thank you for that. The thing that should be most important right now, if I was Gabby's parents, is making sure that the law enforcement agencies that are working on my daughter's case is, that they're doing their job and that they're building a case with, evidence. Whether it's circumstantial, whether it's physical, whether, but the law enforcement agencies here, if you think about it, the media has really taken a lot of the pressure off of law enforcement by this manhunt overshadowing everything that I think is most important. Finding Brian, in my worthless opinion, is... Again, what's the difference if you find Brian or you don't find Brian? All this manpower, all this money that's being spent, all these agents and agencies that could be doing something else. Curious as to what, for Gabby to get proper justice, finding Brian, what does that mean for Gabby? Yes, closure for the family, some kind of justice if he's alive and found guilty. So I would go ahead and definitely agree there, Sarah, with yes. Closure for the family, meaning that they, in terms of that they found him and now they get to question him, or that I guess you get to that point where you ask yourself, is it at all weird that certain things aren't being said as more time goes on? And when can you expect any type of law enforcement to make statements pertaining to actually their investigation? Things like the stuff that you would hear from the press conferences of, we're working towards being able to, apprehend the perpetrator. The things that you would hear, let's say, if Brian was not, quote unquote, missing or on the run. Scratch the last, the family. I will for you there. Callie makes a good point here too. The media, if anything, is tipping them off to each move law enforcement is making. If Brian is in fact being, I guess you could say, held somewhere or being helped, that he is able to see what, I guess you could say, the media is is following it, updating us on just the hunt for him. I just know that if I was Gabby's parents, my questions would be coming elsewhere, because I would want to know things like what the heck happened, how did this happen, why did this happen, and the evidence is what's going to tell you all those things. I would be asking questions like, what did my daughter do for a week by herself in Utah? When Brian flew back to Florida, like, who was my daughter talking to? What the heck is going on? Or what, all those things. I just think that those are the type of that, as a parent, how did this happen? Why did this happen? What's going on? And what is law enforcement doing about it? Do they have, is he the guy? Like, what can you give me? And obviously, during an open investigation, law enforcement's going to try to get away from answering any of that. Okay, so Lynn says he should pay for murdering her. I do agree, though, that many have become obsessed with the circus that has become. There are many missing children that get no attention. Yes, I agree with that. There's many missing children that get no attention. He should pay for murdering her. I think whoever is responsible for murdering her should pay for it. And I think this is why I did this live and why this is the topic. And that is, in order for somebody to pay for murdering somebody, you have to have evidence. And I feel that law enforcement right now is catching a big break with not being hounded. Instead, the media isn't hounding law enforcement. They're instead, in a sense, pimping this manhunt. Let's go to let's see. I have a question for you guys. If Gabby was your daughter, do you think that she would have told you about the August 12th incident? If Gabby was your daughter, would she have told you about that incident? And then if Brian was your son, you can only answer this for yourself, is what type of relationship you have with your children. If Brian was your son, would Brian have told you about the August 12th incident? And again, that's a question for, everybody kind of like internally, but it brings me to the next point, which is to say this then. Let's say that Brian and Gabby, nobody's missing, everybody's alive, nobody's dead, everybody's alive. When watching that body cam footage, what literally would be talking, what would anybody be talking about in terms of what the cops did or what Brian did or what Gabby did? What would be odd? Can anybody really say that something from that body cam was like, oh, you know what, there's a homicide coming right around the corner? I don't see it, but I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Bumblebee says that my son would have, but I don't think my daughter would have. Sherry says, that's why it's so important to have close relationships with your children. I've taught my daughter from a very young age. She can tell me anything and not to keep anything from me. I'm going to totally agree with you there. I think that my parents did the same thing. You know, there were kids when, friends of mine growing up that they were always in fear of their parents to tell them something. And I guess my parents were the opposite way, more like, we can't help you if you don't tell us. Because something that you think maybe is so bad or whatever is not that bad or not that big of a deal, but you can work something through. And I think it's all in the type of relationship that you have with your parents. Now, again, this is going to be a live that really strongly is encouraging you guys to, emotions obviously are always going to run high when it pertains to somebody being a victim of a homicide. I mean, at the end of the day, those are the facts, and it should be emotional. But in order to talk about something, you have to keep it factual, because emotions could lead you down a road that's, because of everything that I do and I believe in and I fight for the people that have been wrongfully accused. So in order to make sure that somebody is not wrongfully convicted, it's important in the process that you take to apprehend somebody, to arrest somebody. That's the most important part, is building a case and making sure that everything is the way that it should be. So with that said, a couple questions, that I have for people that are tuned in is, did Brian have a one-way ticket home in terms of his airfare? Was it a purchased one-way ticket, or was it a round trip? Obviously, I believe that's a very important question, because was Brian planning on returning, or was Brian leaving? And if he didn't buy a round trip ticket, and in fact needed to buy a separate one to go back, what were the circumstances surrounding that? Also, in order to get to the airports, one will get a ride. So did Gabby and him drive the van, and then she had to then drive the van after dropping him off at the airport? Did they get into a fight that he, hitchhiked to the airport? Who came then and picked him up from the airport once he arrived in Florida? And those are all very important questions when people want to ask this question, which is, and that's what Gabby's parents asked, which is, how could you be okay with Gabby not returning here? Gabby lives with you. Well, then you must have not have been told, but they broke up, And then the biggest question I have is, as a 22-year-old female alone in a place that you've never been to before, or if you have, it's been for travel and it's been very brief. You don't know anybody. What did Gabby do for a week by herself? And how is there no sightings of anybody coming forward and saying during the time that Gabby was by herself? Yeah, there you go, Nicole. Yes, what did she do? And I think and it even goes further as this. Okay, so did you order food? Because everybody likes to obviously be on social media. But Gabby didn't post once during that time frame, and neither did Brian. So during that time frame, you're telling me that Gabby didn't talk to one single friend? She didn't have anybody to confide in to say that Brian left, that we got in a fight? You have people delivering food, or you're going to get food. You have this van where you're driving the van around. You like to work in coffee shops with uploading and making videos and editing, which is pain, by the way. But so, how is there no... I'm just shocked that no one has come forward during that time and has mentioned the fact. What about the hotel desk clerk? What about anybody that was staying, at the same hotel? Gabby is a very beautiful girl. People would definitely want to strike up a conversation seeing that she would be by herself versus if there was a guy with her. So these are all types of questions that if I was a parent, I would be asking, especially if I didn't know that Brian had left and that this ever happened. I'd be going back through my phone to see okay, well, I was texting her during this time. What was she saying? Did I even ask about Brian if we were texting? I would just be looking at anything in my phone to see if there was any clues as to something that I would have missed as a parent. Every parent's going to blame themselves. And it's crazy to me that the amount of attention that this case has received and no one is coming forward about anything. Yeah, where's the CCTV? I'm just shocked that none of these gas station clerks didn't go, whether they are an owner, whether they are a manager, and tried to sell footage to someone like TMZ or Us Weekly. You see none of it. Michael asks, was there any video of him in the airport? There's been no surveillance of any kind to surface. The only surveillance, or you could say video, is the cam. Yeah, so Tasha, yes, I agree that people have been asked, just like the neighbors were asked not to talk. Everyone that would have answers, like the desk clerk, has been asked not to talk from the FBI. Well, as much as that has happened, the FBI, people were looking for Gabby before the FBI was seriously invested, you could say, because there was, who has jurisdiction. It was a big cluster at the beginning. So stuff always gets through and seeps through the cracks. And with as much attention as this is garnered, that there's, people are greedy. So, maybe the FBI really went in hard and said, we will, if you hinder this investigation, they wouldn't be obstructing justice. I don't know if they're going to go around threatening that, but didn't her dad say he ordered her food and helped her set up the website when she was alone in the hotel. I don't know if he used actually the term that she was alone in the hotel. He used the phrase that, yes, he did send her food, but he let her use her Domino's app. And then as far as helping her, yes, but there was the word alone wasn't used. It was just that he was helping her because the website was, was frustrating. But as far as the food that they were referring to or he was referring to, it was Domino's. So, and he referred to his Domino's app. Now, then the next point I want to bring up is I've heard people say it, which is, logic. Why would Brian run if he is not, if he's innocent? If he didn't do this, why would he run? And my first comment back to that is, how do you know Brian ran? Brian went out hiking, and Brian never came back home. Those are actually the facts. To say that Brian ran, that would be speculate. You're speculating that. So what the facts are is that Brian came home September 1st and was home then until they went camping, then came back home, and then went, hiking. A better question is I know my parents would say, okay, now that you're back, are you going to get a job? So, what was the plan? Van life didn't pan out. Your relationship didn't pan out according to if this is what you were telling your parents. Well, okay, so you're going to get a job. Again, because his parents wouldn't have known anything at that time. So to say that Brian ran, if he was innocent, he wouldn't have run. And, well, the facts are is that Brian went out hiking and he never returned home. His parents then filed a missing persons. And this was all at the same time that, Gabby was missing. Gabby wasn't, her body wasn't found. After hiring a lawyer, yeah, safe to say he ran. I don't know if it's safe to say that he ran. Somebody came knocking at his door looking for him. He could have committed suicide. Obviously, yes, he could have ran. Something else could have happened. I'm glad that you mentioned this, Mel. His parents told the police he left to go hiking and didn't return. Now, just because his parents said it doesn't make it fact. They could be lying. Absolutely, they could be lying. But this is what law enforcement is supposed to be doing, which is, I do believe at this point, if they put out an arrest warrant for what they did about the cards, that at this point they would have enough evidence if his parents were lying about that. I think there would be enough digital evidence to have some paper trails as far as that goes. If the parents were lying and actually trying to, get him out of town. I think this is way more complicated than people think. And it's just very troublesome for me to see the media not asking law enforcement like what's going on, because whether or not you find Brian or not, what's going on with Gabby's case. And that's just not being talked about at all. That's a good way to put it there, Mama 3. I think the actions by his parents and Brian himself are very suspect. But I do want to know the true story before I form an opinion on guilt or innocence. And I think that's the responsible way to go about something. Emotions can cloud judgments. And I just strongly question right now what law enforcement is doing, because I don't believe that the pressure is being applied. And if there is pressure, it's in the wrong area. The pressure is to find Brian. No, the pressure should be to find who did this to Gabby. And you do that with evidence and a proper investigation. And that's where law enforcement agencies should be, focused on. And here you have this manhunt, and that's why the title is Finding Brian Alive or Dead. What does that have on getting true justice for Gabby? What difference does that make? Curly JK, absolutely. Gabby deserves justice. Anybody that is a victim of a homicide deserves justice. 100%. To be honest, I'm sick of hearing about it all. One guy who murdered one person. I mean, that's as least disrespectful as can be read. And all this attention, money, time giving. Yeah, I just think it's going to the wrong area. And I question, this is the media's doing, guys. This is the media that is, OJ got in a Bronco for what? How many minutes? How long was that chase? This has been going on for, what is it now? It's going on a month. Thank you. I was waiting for someone to say this, and it finally came through. Glitter Fighter, yes. The manpower and financial resources used to find a guy who is only wanted for credit card fraud is, thank you. That's what I was trying to get to, which is there comes a point that the law enforcement agencies are going to have to make, why are you justifying all of this? How are you justifying all of this? Is Brian wanted for Gabby's murder, yes or no? Is he the person? And I like to think that he is, with everything that's been going on. But when you zone in on one person and you're not doing a proper investigation and working with other law enforcement agencies properly, that's when stuff can happen. not good things for your case. So Glitter Fighter, absolutely right there. The manpower and financial resources used to find a guy who is only wanted for credit card fraud is just, that's not, again, it's not, how do you justify that? Do I think that they would share what they are doing? Absolutely not. Do I think that the media is applying pressure in the wrong areas? Absolutely. And many don't get it, don't get nearly as much attention. Amazing 80, that is obviously correct. So, Sean, I have a question for you. Kelly, I just hope he's not dead because I want Gabby to get the justice she deserves. Now, I have a question about this comment. How does him, alive or dead, have anything to do with Gabby getting the justice she deserves? This is like, I'm waiting to see if Sean wants to answer this because this is, I think, what has to do with the title of everything today and what I wanted to talk about, which was, Sean makes a point to Callie to say, I just hope he's not dead because I want Gabby to get the justice she deserves. I don't, I Gabby getting the justice that she deserves is Gabby's truth being told to her parents. Her parents, her being able to rest peacefully, her parents being able to have the facts, have the evidence, be told this is what happened, this is the evidence, against this man. We have the right person. But that to me is proper justice is for Gabby, is to know, for her family to have that closure, to know what happened. You may not ever get the why, even if a person's alive and is sitting in a defendant chair. There's never really a why that's worth anything. But I think that the evidence that hopefully law enforcement is doing and getting and putting it all together is going to be able to give Gabby the justice she deserves and her parents the closure that they so desperately will need and deserve. Sean says, because then he can be put in prison for murdering her. I think it's quite obvious that he murdered her. He wouldn't be on the run if he didn't murder her. I think he knows what he did was wrong. Okay, so then, Sean, can I ask a question as to why didn't he run September 1st, September 2nd? Why would you run 10 days, possibly 11 days? He just woke up on the 9th or the 10th and said, you know what I did was wrong, and now I'm going to run. I'm just curious that why he wouldn't have ran on the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd. Why, if he did run, did he run when he ran? He's innocent because he chose to run on a certain date. No, you're actually innocent until proven guilty, RM, just in case you forgot. You're innocent until proven guilty. And right now, Glitter Fighter said it before I could, and I appreciate that. That right now, the warrant out for Brian is being accused of using credit cards without the consent of the person that owns the credit cards. So Lana is going on facts, and at the moment there just isn't any because the papers are running the show. Well said there, Bumblebee. Three of a kind. Question for Sean. How do you even know for sure he's on the run? What if he generally went on a hike and is missing? Kelly says, I bet 98% of the people don't know the names of the female couple murdered, but standing outside of a house screaming at people. People need to be honest. Because she wasn't reported missing until then. If Brian was the perpetrator, he knew that she was dead, knew that it would only be a matter of time until that would unfold. Nobody knew. He didn't even know. It wasn't like all over like the media or anything like that when Gabby's dad showed up. So I'm just curious as to how you guys think that all played out in terms that he ran because he was a wanted man. Brian wasn't wanted by any law enforcement agencies when he supposedly ran or went hiking or went missing. I'm gonna agree with that, Kayla. There is never closure with a death. I would definitely agree with that. Okay. That warrant is to get him so they can interrogate him for her murder. Okay. Curly, he has an attorney. There's going to be no interrogation, just so you know that. That's never happening. Brian isn't going to be interrogated by any law enforcement agencies. This is great. And it's facts. He's running. He's been seen. Who has he been seen by? Dog the bounty hunter? Nope. Me, myself, and I, didn't he soon disappear after her father discovered he was back without her? Well, I think that's one of the big question marks is when did Gabby's father show up and what type of conversation was had when he came to Brian's parents' house. Also, when was the missing persons put in? Because if if Gabby's parents were trying to get a hold of Brian, Gabby, calling Gabby, couldn't get a hold of her, then he's calling Brian, can't get a hold of Brian. They're supposed to be together. They're supposed to be, in the van all the way across the country. And I just think it could be said the same way that Gabby's dad is saying it about Brian's parents, which is, well, why didn't you file a missing persons report for my son when you filed a missing persons report for your daughter? They were together. Because he was saying, well, when Brian came back without my daughter, why, you don't think that that's weird? Well, no, because they had broken up. My son has already come back once without your daughter. He flew here on the 16th. They broke up, and then he went back there to go bring the van back because she said she couldn't drive it back. So, I think when people are trying to say that the Brian's parents are hiding or that they knew something, I think people really have to look at this in a logical standpoint, and you get the logic from the facts. Why would I ever think that something happened to Gabby if my son already left there once, and then he flew back there, and then he drove the van back like he said he was going to do because she asked him, she's like, that's fine, I'll fly back, or but I can't take this van all the way back. Is that logical that he would then go get the van and bring it back? Is that illogical? And to me, as a parent, if I was told about the August 12th domestic violence, and then Brian already came back once without her because he said he had he wasn't going to get in trouble, they dodged a bullet, and that things aren't going well. So he comes home only to find out, okay, well, what do you mean you're flying back to, Utah? Because I'm going to bring back the van. Okay. And is she coming with you? And then depending on probably how he answered that question, I would even say something like, well, should one of us be going with you? Like, that type of conversation, I think that's what I would have with my, 22, 23-year-old son. But why would I ever think that my son would ever harm his live-in girlfriend who lives with me? And in fact, if somebody was to show up at my doorstep accusing me of something like that, I would think that the person is on drugs or something. Because what do you mean? Gabby has been living with us. We didn't do anything. Why are you acting like this? What do you mean Gabby's missing? What do you mean you haven't talked to her? I'd be asking all those type of questions. What do you mean you haven't talked to your daughter? Well, yeah, I haven't talked to Gabby since, August, Well, I would, okay. Well, Brian's been back here once before he flew, and then he flew back there to go get the van and bring it back. And he just left Gabby. Well, that was what the plan was. He was going there to bring the van back, and I guess she was flying back. Well, has she come back? No, no, maybe did she fly to New York? I didn't get in the middle of my son's breakup. I didn't, but if you really think about the logic of talking it out like that, what parents are getting involved with their 22 and 23-year-old son or daughter's relationship like that? And if your kid tells you something and he did it the first time and he flew back and then he flew back to, go back there and he comes back with the van, that's what he said he was doing. Why would I be questioning that anything sinister happened or anything bad happened? Why would I ever think that? So it all depends on what type of conversation was had between the parents And there was a conversation had. I'm making a lot of assumptions. No, it's fact that Brian flew home on a plane. That is fact. It's fact that he then flew back there. Those are facts. Okay, those are facts. Now the question is did he fly back on a one-way ticket or a round trip? It is fact that the van ended up back at Brian's parents' house. That means, how did it get there? He drove it. He said he drove it to me, a parent. Would that be fact? Yeah. What kind of assumptions are made there? I went over and over and over Gabby's dad's interview with Dr. Phil, and anytime that he's made any public statements. And Gabby didn't tell them things. Gabby was alone in Utah for almost a week. What was Gabby doing? Who was she with? Who was she talking to? And if nobody thinks that that's important in her investigation, because she ended up being a victim of a homicide. And right now we don't know the date of any of that happening. We don't know that. And Brian's parents just simply said he went for a hike. The Mustang was parked where it was. He never came home. Police called to say, hey, we're red tagging your vehicle, or come, we're going to tow it or come get it. They made a phone call to the car that it was registered to. So they went and got the car. Wouldn't you go and get your vehicle? Or, okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Just go ahead and tow it. No, you would go and pick it up. So they went and picked it up. This is all logic. His parents are like, okay, now where the fuck's Brian? And then they reported him missing, which unfortunately you have to wait 48 hours to do. You'd have to ask Florida if they made them wait the 48 hours to report him missing based on the last time that they saw him. The facts are that Brian came home on September 1st, and he was home and with them from the point of September 1st, so when they went camping. Then his sister comes forward and says, okay, yes, she was camping too. Stating that they, obviously with him, saw him. And her saying that, no, we didn't talk about anything to do with Gabby. Now people are going to say that's a lie. Well, if you break up with somebody and if anybody has a brother out there or they have siblings, and if I was to say to my older brother, oh, well, what the hell happened? I don't want to talk about it. Like, yeah, so we didn't talk about it. That's all going to be depending on their relationship. But a guy saying to his sister, I don't want to talk about it, that seems like a pretty straightforward, simple boy type of an answer. Just because murder charges aren't there yet doesn't mean he's innocent. Things take time. They don't have to question him to have evidence against him. Yes, but everybody is innocent until proven guilty in the United States of America. That's my stance. It'll always be my stance because it's very important for due process. But unfortunately, the way that the world is working today is people are considered guilty if they are arrested, and then you have to basically prove your innocence. Which, if that's the case, then law schools really need to change their ways of teaching how to be a defense attorney. Because the burden is no longer falling on the prosecution with cases. And that's not what this was intended to do. We are innocent until proven guilty. And Brian simply not being able to be found does not prove that he is guilty. In fact, if you go by the actual facts, Brian is considered a missing persons. If they want to deem him a wanted for murder, then they should go ahead and make that known. Because right now I think that justifying all this money in this manhunt and taking away law enforcement doing other things to find a guy that is wanted for credit card fraud, maybe law enforcement should make it more clear. Wow, we all know that the U.S. has a problem with public opinion condemning people before they've been tried in court. That's not what is happening with Brian Laundrie. That's exactly what is happening with his parents. That's exactly what's happening. The media is crucifying this family. Whether, you guys, if he is guilty, he's going to be found guilty. If he did this, that's going to happen. That's why we have law enforcement agencies, okay? But our right to remain silent, like the parents of Brian are doing, that's our right, and I will tell anybody that they should be always invoking that right. Because anything that you say can and will be used against you. Can and will be used against you. Okay. No, we have strong opinions about what they're hiding. What are they hiding? What are your strong opinions about what they are hiding? I'm not saying they are all guilty and that's it. Let's just lock them all up. No. I'm saying, what do you believe that the parents are hiding? Whatever Gabby's dad said, this is my opinion. Whatever Gabby's dad said to the parents of Brian that day that he went there led them to call a lawyer. Because did the Laundries call a lawyer prior to her dad arriving on their property? And the answer is no. So whatever occurred the day of her dad arriving and however that went down, which none of us know because we were not there, but it's cause and effect. It is fact. He's saying, I went to their home. He's not sugarcoating anything by the way I'm very protective dad. Would my dad be the same way? Absolutely. Absolutely. But also you're going to have to expect somebody on the opposite end to react a certain way, okay? Which would be like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you screaming at me about all this crazy stuff? I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, and if you or Brian have anything to do with this, and blah, 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 what is going on? And he's just running his mouth around. And then he's threatening. We don't know what happened, but all I know is the facts. And the facts are that Gabby's dad went to the house, and then the parents, after talking, lawyered up. And when you want to use the words lawyered up, no, there's no lawyering up. They called their attorney, and they also called the police. They did not just call an attorney. They called the police. Go get the call log. They called the police. The police came to the home. Well, let's hope that's true. Tomorrow, the medical examiner will talk about the autopsy. Let's hope that doesn't get canceled. Notice her pattern of debate. Oh, you must be an oldie that got kicked out, and now you have a new alt. Let's talk about this. Notice her pattern of debate. When it's to cast doubt on guilt, she uses "if that were my family." Yeah, because that's the way that you're trying to explain to your audience to put yourself in somebody's shoes and actually what you would do in that situation. If somebody was threatening you, what would you do? Oh, you would call the police and then talk to your attorney. That's what you would do. Just like when Debris and Scarlett threatened me and said she was going to put me in old style Brooklyn and throw me down the canal. What did I do? I called the police and then I contacted my attorney. That's exactly what I did. So that's what people, I guess, do that, I don't know their rights, know the law, feel something off. I didn't just start throwing down and fist fighting people. If that were my family, that's logic. When we want to doubt Brian's actions, we get, you don't have any proof. I'm saying that Gabby deserves justice, and how you get justice is letting the evidence play out and not letting the media crucify innocent people until proven guilty. The media can report on things, but nobody's standing up for the fact that his parents choosing not to talk to all the idiots in the media or the YouTube people, that's the smart thing to do. Why would you want to talk to any media people? To say what? You're in shock. You have no idea what's going on. Let me just go and get in front of a camera and just start talking. Yeah, that's the right thing to do. That's going to be amazing for everything. The media is only reporting one side of things, and that's the problem. Is if you keep it factual versus the unbiased part, where it comes into, that's called emotion. That's what become bias, is because of your emotions. And the facts remain that you have the right to remain silent. You can contact a lawyer, and I would advise anybody in here to always do that, period. You have a missing child. No one answers where she used to live. Wouldn't you go there in person? Absolutely. But I'm also thinking that my kid is out on the West Coast. Why would I think that my kid is at their parents' house? Why would I think that? The only thing that I would think is let me go over there because I need to ask them, hey, have you talked to Brian or Gabby? Because I haven't talked to them in 10 days. That would be why I would go to the parents' house if I was if I was Gabby's dad. That's how I would be going over there. Also, I would be wanting to know, how many times did you call these people? Did you call Brian's parents literally 4 times a day? Did you call them once ever? And they didn't answer? I mean, did you leave a message? Again, none of this is known, but absolutely if I had a missing child and no one answering my child's phone or her fiance's phone and they're across the United States of America, I would go to the parents' house and ask if they've talked to their child, because you haven't been able to get in touch with your child. But you have to also remember, you have a missing child. Are people going to call 22 and 23-year-olds missing children, or are they missing adults? They wouldn't answer the door. Then how was he able to talk to her parents? I mean, his parents, if they didn't answer the door. How did he know that Brian flew on a plane? How did he find out all that information if they didn't answer the door? See, that's where the missing facts are. Gabby's dad got answers that day. And then things escalated and the police were called. Do a right to know. See, go get the call log. See what you find. You can have that opinion as far as Brian is a piece of shit and his parents are enabling him, in my opinion. You can have that opinion. But the problem with the world right now is that without the facts, you're crucifying people. We only know things because of what supposedly the media is saying. When he flew, she was still calling her mom. Yeah, I think I never said that she wasn't. I asked what she was doing the whole week by herself. I'm saying that why aren't there any reports of running into Gabby during the week when Brian wasn't there? You know, all the reports that we have from everybody that's come forward and talking about them, you know, possibly serving them or running into them. There's just crickets with that week. And if I was her parents, I would want to know, because her parents were not even notified that Brian had left. They weren't notified about the August 12th incident either. Her dad admits that and says that in an interview. He did not know about August 12th incident. Them's the facts out of his mouth. Yes, she was staying in a hotel. Did she drive the van to drop him off to fly? Did she go and take the van and then pick him up? Because remember, she doesn't like to drive the van. Did they get into like a fight where he just hitchhiked to the airport with his bag? Again, we don't know any facts. Nobody knows anything about this case. But yet, instead of all of these things that should be talked about, what's being talked about is this manhunt for a gentleman that, whether they find him or not, Gabby, with or without finding him, can still get proper justice, and that's where the focus should be. The focus should be on Gabby getting proper justice and not on this manhunt. Can you cite me your source for father never spoke to the parents? How does Gabby get justice without Brian being found? That's where law enforcement comes in. Isn't that how it happens? How does anybody get justice? If Brian was found sitting at the defendant's table, Blues Clues wants to know, the only question I have in this whole case besides where his parents are hiding him is who drove the Mustang to the reserve. Well, I guess let's go ahead and say that if they are hiding him, how did they manage to do this without any paper trail in 2021? Because if this is the case, then these people need to be working for the FBI. But it's 2021 and everybody seems to think that the parents are helping him hide out. How do you do that without a paper trail? How do you accomplish that in 2021? By planning it well? Oh my God. Well, if that's the case, then they're definitely smarter than all law enforcement. The FBI, they're smarter than the FBI. They're smarter than, Dog the Bounty Hunter. They're smarter than everybody. If you guys truly think that his parents are helping and aiding and did all this in 2021 without managing to have ridiculous paper trails, I want to know how. How CCTV, you're eluding everything. How is that possible? I'm being serious. Like, let's go with that. He is in some house, that they have some property, that they have a cabin somewhere. They just, went to the bank when he got back and pulled out somehow without the cops, law enforcement knowing, a bunch of cash, gave it to Brian. Yes, they gave him money, and there are tons of hiding places. We don't even know when he was last seen. They keep changing their stories. You guys, the parents have not spoken to anybody. So they have not changed their story at all. The media keeps changing the story. When has his parents spoke? Hasn't happened. If there are tons of cameras, then who was in the car? I'm asking you guys. Knowing that the parents are... Well, I'm asking, how do you know that the parents are... No, I'm being serious. If you ask me a question, if you're asking me as a police officer a question, and you didn't ask me the questions that you wanted, so you re-interview me. Oh, now they're saying this. Well, no, because you didn't ask me that. You asked me this. I mean, who's to say that the stories are changing? Where is this coming from? And if anybody's going to sit here really and say that it's not coming from the media, who comes over our televisions? Not Brian's parents. You mistake the day your son goes missing. Okay. People use the term hiking loosely. Okay. People use the term camping loosely. So to confuse when your son went missing, well, I didn't know that my son was missing. Okay. So wait, when did he go camping? When did he go hiking? Because when my son goes hiking, he'll go, sometimes it's just for a couple hours. Sometimes and he'll spend the night. I mean, he's always fucking out in the goddamn wilderness. I mean, what do you mean? There you go. The lawyer did, not them. Well, let me tell you what I think about lawyers right now. Not too highly. I can tell you my experience today with a couple of them. And nothing to do with criminal stuff. All civil shit. Thank you, Nikki. I try to stick to the facts. I do. And trust me, is Brian prime suspect? Brian did this? Abso-fucking-lutely. Absolutely. But you know what's sad? Is that the media hasn't, the police haven't even said that. FBI hasn't said that. They said that they want him due to some credit cards. I think everything surrounding this whole case is a giant mess. And I think that the way that you unmess things is you have to take time and go through stuff. Hence did he have a one-way trip? Did he have, a round trip? Digital evidence. Like Tasha said earlier, people that have come forward that the FBI is keeping all hush-hush, all that stuff. You want to build a case. And right now, the media is not putting any pressure on law enforcement because the media is only concerned with their numbers, with their ratings, and this manhunt that's costing all this money, all this resources, for what? And that's what Glitterfighter said earlier, which was what? You're doing this for a guy that's wanted for credit card fraud. And that doesn't make sense. So come clean with it and say that you're going after him for the murder of Gabby. And I think that that's probably coming. Or if it's not, then it's because there's something up with the investigation. Something's not kosher. I believe Gabby does not need Brian's body, dead or alive, to obtain justice. And that this shouldn't be about a manhunt for Brian, but instead, exactly who else should be questioned. I think that nobody even needs to be questioned right now. What needs to happen is that law enforcement has to be doing their job. And this is a huge distraction for them doing their job. But RM, I believe Gabby does not need Brian's body, dead or alive, to obtain justice. We agree right there. Because justice is going to come from the evidence proving what happened, the guilty party, and hopefully giving Gabby's parents and family the answers that they need. And then allowing, because of that process, Gabby to rest peacefully. Yeah, that's why I believe in our rights are very important. You have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. They will. Three minutes ago, there is a conference tomorrow regarding the results of Gabby's autopsy results via news network, but likely law enforcement, in my opinion, announcing they are releasing her remains to the parents. Well, we shall see. I just have a question. I want to know why Debris and Natasha Cooper and case discussions and all those brilliant folks over there, why they aren't asking all of those protesters if they're homeless and if they if they need shelter at the YMCA because they're camping out over there at the Laundries estate. So why isn't Debris, Natasha, in case discussions talking about the fact that we got some homeless people that are camping out at the Laundries? That'll be a nice live for them. It's the truth, though. They're going to tell me to, Lana, go, get down to Florida, get in one of those tents out there and protest and have a place to stay since you're homeless. Makeup Queen, like the name. I just don't like people that lie on innocent families that I'm trying to help and currently helping, as well as a nonprofit that I give a ton of my time to, and then lying on me. So I actually have a reason and facts to back up why the level of disgust that I have for them. It's their actions. Oh yeah, and let's not forget the fake sex scandal panel. They are not homeless. They want justice for Gabby. It was a joke. Blue's Clues. It was a joke. Just like I'm not homeless. Like, God forbid you get out of your house and you're not in your house all the time. People start, I guess, labeling you homeless. But see, this is how people like to think they're cute or funny. So protesters are homeless? Well, yeah, according to Natasha Cooper and Debris and their logic, that if you, God forbid, you aren't at your house for a couple days, that you are homeless, I guess. So, yeah. Glitter Fighter, yep, there you go. Your constitutional rights all day. We have constitutional rights for a reason, and if they are allowed to be violated for Brian Laundrie, then people can't cry when their own... You guys, it's all about our rights. Gabby is going to get the justice she deserves. We have to protect the way it happens. Okay? It is important. All right? It says actually nothing to do with Brian or his parents. This has to do with policy and procedure and constitutional rights. This is what is very, very important, because there are people that are wrongfully accused and convicted because they're not held accountable. They zero in. The media, guilty by the media. And then you got jury members watching all of this stuff saying, oh, yeah, no, I didn't see any of that. Don't even know what case you're talking about. Lying to get then on and be one of the 12 that decide your fate for the rest of your life. How would you feel about that? That somebody lied to get on a panel of 12 people to decide your fate. How would you feel about that? I mean, if that isn't grounds for if that's not grounds for a mistrial, I don't know what is in this world. But even like the slightest type of lie, to be on the jury. I mean, usually people are trying to get out of jury duty. I guess if O.J. Simpson was innocent, Brian could be too. Yep, O.J. ran, right? I want to know how O.J. managed to get in the Bronco, okay? All that blood at the scene. Did he get naked to get in that Bronco? The bottom of his shoes touching then the floorboard. There was no blood in that car, that Bronco. And no, he didn't have time to clean that Bronco out. I personally think that O.J.'s oldest son had something to do with Nicole Brown Simpson's murder in a PI out of Texas, William Deere. You should read his book. Very, very good. He did a ton of years putting into it, a ton of money. I think it was over like $1 million. He actually bought the truck, like the Jeep that O.J.'s son had at the time. Yeah, you need to read the William Deere book. Yeah. And guess what chefs have? They have knives. Yeah, for this one, absolutely. Good luck finding untainted jury members, especially for this. I would agree. I just think that there's certain parts of a trial, certain parts of an investigation that it doesn't get glorified, but it's the most important parts. I don't care who your attorney is. If you don't have a really good PI, if you don't have the investigative work and hours and research of putting your defense together, like I said, I don't care what type of litigator you have, and that you think that they're so good, but if you're not prepared for a trial, you can't win. You can't defend your client and prove, because nowadays you have to prove their innocence. It's not like the old days. Reasonable doubt, guys, that has gone out the fucking window. I mean, look at this chat. Reasonable doubt. Shit, we haven't even heard the facts of this case, and Brian is guilty. And I think that that's just, that mentality has to stop. And if Brian is guilty, Brian will be found guilty. But there is just too many. Like, look at the Innocence Project, guys, would not exist if it wasn't needed. The Innocence Project would not be in existence if it was not needed. If they didn't have anything to, like, there's too many people that are going away to prison for crimes that they did not commit because of either corruption, lazy police work, to putting together a case, knowing that there's exculpatory evidence and they're flat out just fucking hiding it. That stuff has to change. And the only way that changes is by us holding, agencies accountable. And like I said, it's hard to take your emotions out of things like this, especially when it's a homicide, and somebody's so young, and being the victim of a homicide, it's very difficult to take the emotions out. But think about if a cop had these type of emotions that you see on YouTube from these fucking keyboard warriors. Think about if everybody has that mindset. I mean, our children are doomed. Mimi, yeah, I mean, call it critical thinking, call it, logic and reason, but what about the foundation of what this country is built on, which is, our civil liberties and constitutional rights, and you guys, cops can lie to you, okay? Cops are going to have the advantage. And if you don't think that false confessions happen and you need to be quiet, because this is how innocent people are found guilty, because, here, we got this person. Why? Well, because they didn't know where they were last night, and then they switched it, and then they said that they were here. Oh, but they did say that they had a bottle of Jack Daniels last night. Yeah, but I mean, how can you not remember where you were? I mean, that's the type of shit that's going on. Yeah, critical thinking entails, I think just critical thinking entails facts, seeing all sides, not zeroing in on emotion. I mean, you guys, we don't even know what airports Brian flew in and out of. We don't even know, did Brian fly alone? We don't know shit. We know nothing. We know nothing. And I think every freaking media outlet should be gagged. I mean, if I'm a defense attorney, I'm saying, how is Brian, if he was to be arrested for this homicide, how is he supposed to get a fair trial? How is that supposed to happen? It's not going to happen. Thank you, Lee. Considering he didn't do it, then explain how he drove the van home without her and why he is not talking if he didn't do it. Well, because he's missing is why he's not talking, but I don't believe that he would talk. Have you guys even taken a chance to read his social media? Like, he hates the media, by the way. And I don't believe he would have talked to law enforcement. If you guys think that he's listening to his parents, let's say that law enforcement would have came to the door and he was there at the door, and was told that they found Gabby's body and that they came there because that's what she had listed as her residence. So they were doing a, they were giving their, when you have to go and, oh God, it has slipped my mind. Critical thinking entails he didn't do it. No, critical thinking entails that how can you judge something without having the facts? But so considering he didn't do it, then explain how he drove the van home without her, because you have to go back as to why he flew back to Florida in the first place. And if he flew back to Florida in the first place because they continued to fight after the August 12th incident, and he's like, you know what? We need to head back. Or even she said it. But she's like, this is my van, and I don't want to leave, and no, whatever happened there. But Brian got on a plane and left her, and she was alive when he flew, and he flew to because they broke up. So as to why he would go back there, if she had said, can you come back to just drive the van? I'll fly back. I just can't drive this van by myself. I hate this van, you know that. And so during that week while he was gone in Florida, if that type of conversation had happened, and therefore then he goes back to get the van. Is that a logical and reasonable thing to think that would have happened? Because why did he leave in the first place? And if it's because they broke up, then this is all logical. And hey, okay, like, well, Brian, how am I supposed to get back? All right, well, I'll come and get it, but I'm not driving with you. Like, you can fly back, I will drive it, but I'm not going to be in a car with you for 40 fucking hours. It's not fucking happening. Like, you've seen what it's done. Like we're screaming and yelling. Like, they got in a huge fight. They broke up. I mean, Fox News is reporting that Brian was her ex-boyfriend. So that to me, considering he didn't do it, then explain how he drove the van home without her. That's how. If he was supposed to, if that was part of the plan to do that. Now, the other side though to that is, well, doesn't that mean she's flying home? So wouldn't he have dropped her off at the airport? Absolutely. So if he had told his parents this, and his parents relayed any of this to authorities, and then they were checking surveillance, and nope, that never happened. Okay, Brian. Yeah, well, there's no surveillance seeing Gabby in an airport. There's no airline ticket bought for her. Yada yada yada. So but in terms of logic, now is it also logical that she was supposed to, like I said, go with him back and take the van back with him? Yeah, and then why didn't she? Because they fought again and then something bad happened? Yeah, but you have to ask yourselves, why did he fly from Utah in the first place to go back to Florida? And why would his parents, knowing that he did that and then goes back, so he comes the first time, why would they, when he returned without her, he's already been home once without her. So why would his parents be like, well, where the fuck's Gabby? They wouldn't think that that is off if the plan was for him to drive this van, and then let's say, yeah, and I'm going to fly back to New York because we need some time apart because they broke up, so she's going to go home and like stay with her mom for a little bit. Is this all logical for his parents to think if this is what they were told? Yeah, why the fuck would I think that my son did something to Gabby? And I think that what people aren't understanding is Brian came home on September 1st. There's none of this news media stuff going on. He was supposed to come back without her because he was driving the van back. Why would his parents be like, what the fuck are you doing? Why aren't you with Gabby? They wouldn't say that to him. Because that's what he told them he was going to go and do. But she ends up dead, and he has her van, and he's missing. He tortured this girl and left, and when he got back, she broke it off, and he killed her and took the van? Okay, so wait, let me back this up. You're saying that he tortured this girl and left, and when he got back, she broke it off with him? And then so what's your reasoning as to why he left Utah? And why he would go back there? Why did he go back there? Why were they moving stuff out of the house that was supposedly hers into a storage unit? That sounds to me like a breakup. This isn't a theory. This is that there are no theories and there's no facts, though. The little facts that we have is it's being twisted by the media. Because to sit here and say that Brian's parents lied, Brian's parents haven't talked to anybody. So you can't put the lies on Brian's parents because Brian's parents haven't spoke. Those are the facts. Now, whether miscommunications happen, I don't know, with the lawyer, but at the end of the day, Brian's parents haven't said anything. Okay, so to tell his parents his plan so they could get things ready for his attorney. Oh my gosh, okay, let me get this straight. You believe that Brian, who said, hey, take me to jail instead of her when the domestic violence thing happened. Okay, take me. Hey, I don't want you to, no, can you take me? That's not, but 4 days later, clearly having issues, in which, for all we know, maybe Brian bought the ticket on the 13th and said, I'm getting out of here because, like, this isn't happening again. But you think that Brian left, told his parents, hey, get it all ready. I'm going to go fly back to Utah, murder Gabby, then I'm going to drive the van back, and you guys better have a fucking plan when I get back. That's what you think happened. Now that wow. I'm just saying, this is insane. For one, I have seen the missing persons report that her parents filed at the police department. And for two, I watched Gabby's parents talk on Dr. Phil. Okay. But that's what, Blue's Clues, that's what, this is what Blue's Clues has said. Blue's Clues, where'd you go? I just want to make sure I got your theory down. Exactly. They are some very shady people. Wow. Okay, so Blue's Clues, I am going to say, if that is your theory, I can promise you that his parents would be in custody right now, without a doubt. Again, it is 2021, and you think that Brian is, you know what, getting on a plane, I'm going to fly fucking home, you guys better get this plan together, I'm going to act like we broke up, and I'm going to act like I'm just going to get that damn van, but you guys better just take out like $150. You know what? He called them on August 12th, said, hey, just start taking out $200 a day, start a little stash for me. Well, do you guys have a safety deposit box? Just go to that, pull out that money, because you guys have groomed me to be a fucking killer, so I'm ready to kill. Like, that's what you guys are basically saying. And let's use these 5 places that we have across the United States, and let's just move me and really like fuck with the media and fuck with law enforcement. And by the way, we're going to elude every camera, no paper trail. We're going to go camping, though, when I get back so the neighbors see me. And we're going to invite good old sis with us, say hi to the kids. And then we're going to, you know what, I'll help Dad do some yard work. I'll hang around for like 10 days. What? No, I'm laughing at the fact that he said that it was a plan with his parents prior to going back out to Utah. And he said, yeah, the parents were getting everything lined up. But then they thought that, hey, let's just sit around on our asses for 7 days, then we'll go camping. And yeah, that sounds like a great plan to get away from what's coming. Brian was seen by his neighbors the week that he returned. Brian was seen camping. And it is fact that Gabby's father did come to their house, and then Brian was never seen again. Okay? And all I've ever said is my dad would wait there until that person got back to talk. Isn't that the whole reason you went there? Especially if you found out or you looked in the garage and saw the van was there. Any way you slice and dice it, I know that my father would not be leaving that house if he knew that the van was back and Brian was back. And yet he hasn't talked to me in God knows how many days at that point. My dad's not leaving. I don't think that you need a body, though. I don't think that there should be a manhunt going on here. I think that the media needs to redirect their attention on law enforcement, and that's what needs to happen for Gabby to get proper justice, because there clearly is something off with this whole case, and law enforcement couldn't be more happy, I think, right now that the media is totally, fixated on this manhunt. And if I was Gabby's parents, that's not where I'd want their attention. I'd want their attention on the investigation into what happened to my daughter, and that law enforcement is doing everything that they can for my daughter's case. And that's what I would want. My theory that there's very limited facts, and that's whether or not it's because they're not just revealing that, but I think this day and age, you'd have a lot of people leaking stuff. Whether it was a gas station, clerk that caught, Brian paying for gas as he was coming back home with the van. I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding everything about everything to do with these two, that something is off. Something isn't right. And this is this is unprecedented. So, like I said, if I was the parents of Gabby, I would be, I'm not getting any answers. You guys going out and hunting for fucking Brian, what answers am I getting? I want to know what happened to my daughter. I want to know that, I would just have so many questions about it. And you don't need Brian to get those answers. Do I think that the parents are involved? Absolutely not. I don't. I think if the parents I think that if the parents are involved, just like everything else, let that, come out. Clearly, they are not. They would be arrested right now if they were obstructing justice. Okay. I think that if the police or the FBI could handcuff the parents, you guys want to talk about like maybe Brian coming out of wherever he's at, and Brian finding out that his parents got arrested, would that bring him forward? But I just think a little bit more logically than most. But as a parent, if my son told me that he broke up with his girlfriend and he was going back to just bring this van back, and not only was it his girlfriend, but it was his fiance, my son would go and do that, because that's the type of son that I would have raised, not letting her come back alone. Oh, okay, are you guys good? What do you mean you're going to go back and you guys have been fighting? You had the police already called on you, like, is that a good idea? Yeah, no, Mom, it'll be fine. Like, I'm just going to go get the van. Okay, well, if anything's out of the ordinary, just, can she fly back and you fly, what's, like, but that type of conversation, and for him to come back with the van without her, he's already come once without her. So for him to come again without her, why would I think that something bad happened? Especially if there's like a very good, explanation. It could have even been beforehand. Like, and who's to say that Brian went alone? We don't know that. We don't know if somebody went with him. So these are just, everything is just so unknown, but it's just really sad to see how people are attacking these parents. It's just, whether they are guilty of helping Brian or not, I just don't think that any of this is merited for, I've just never seen something like that. Again, unprecedented case, unprecedented situation. But I think that it's really distracting. And if I was Gabby's parents, I would be concerned about that. I would want there to be no distractions in getting justice for my daughter. I don't think remaining silent and invoking your rights is bringing on anything other than me invoking my rights. I disagree. And I think that people need to stop using the term, because I'll be guilty of it too, when we want to say like child. When do we deem a 22 or 23-year-old a child? But yeah, if my child was missing, I would be out there looking every day and pleading for tips on my child, not sitting in my house doing nothing. They have to know where he is. Okay, you say that now, okay? You have people that are standing outside of your house. Actually, I asked a lawyer, if you were my attorney and I was Brian's parents, what would you be advising me to do? Well, first of all, yeah, you don't say anything. You don't talk to the media. You don't talk to anybody. So remaining silent. I said, well, what about the living situation with, all the stuff that's going on outside the house? You would you wouldn't stay there. You would not stay there. If you could be staying somewhere else, you would look into doing that with family but that's not a healthy situation. So again, this is what a lawyer, I said, hypothetically speaking, what would you be advising? And that's exactly what they said. So what they're doing is what they've been told to do by their attorney. But yes, if my child is out there missing, yes, looking for them, but when somebody's saying to you, we have all the manpower we have out there, you can really help us by, can you remember anything? Did Brian say this? Do you have anything? Like, it's normal for police and law enforcement to tell you that, well, we're doing everything that we can and we have all the manpower out there and, just to stay home. We see it all the time. When her parents started calling, saying they were going to call the police, surely the parents asked their son what's happening. Again, when did that happen? See me, I'm like CVS. I'm all about CVS receipts. And I think maybe it's just because that's what I don't know, but that's what someone's saying that they did. I'd be like, yeah, this is what this is the message that I sent their parents, and be playing it. This is what I did. I called 17 times on Saturday. Look at all these times I called, and then playing every single voice message, or every time that I, showing them every time I called them. I just think it's interesting because if in fact they were calling and saying all this, then why didn't Brian run when they were calling and saying these things? Why didn't he run then? Why didn't they put plan A in motion then? Why would it be that it was when, the day he shows up, Gabby's father. So I question that whole timeline there. Yes, I did. I watched her parents on Dr. Phil. Something I thought was interesting is that there was a GoFundMe set up on September 12th. September 12th or September 13th. I thought I had that piece of paper in front of me. It was September 12th or September 13th. I believe it was the 12th. Whatever day that there was a GoFundMe set up on, and I noticed one of the donors was the Chiefs and fire. It was one of those private groups, basically made up of officers and firemen. And one of my friends is a fire chief, and I asked him about those funds and how do you actually get the okay to donate. They donated $1,100, and he's like, wow, that's actually a lot. He's like, anything over 500 we have to vote on, and when we have to vote on, it's everybody in our departments, or not our department, but everybody that was involved with that private organization. I said, oh, interesting. I said, but anything. I said, what about 500? He said, well, then we just vote in our little group. But anything like that much, we have to have everybody votes on it, and then it's majority. And it was just something I thought was interesting because the time, that the GoFundMe was set up, and then $1,100 is coming out of, I think I was talking with Crystal about it, and she had looked into it. And the $1,100 is considered a decent amount of money for a GoFundMe, from what my fire chief was telling me. Again, I believe when you're saying that you can't remember the dates, you guys, you're hearing everything from a media outlet sensationalizing everything. And the Laundries changing the date that their son went missing. I mean, everything is just sensationalized because you guys are not reporting on this case, okay? They have an agenda, and their agenda is ratings. I'm sorry, but those are the facts. I would love to know how those people would report if they knew that they weren't getting paid. How would they report the case? Are they going to carry on for as long as they can with it, or are they going to try to wrap it up as quickly as they can? And I think that we know the answer. They're sensationalizing, so to say that they don't remember or they're switching the days, again, we didn't hear that from the parents. We haven't heard anything from them. And I've been around parents that have been accused of saying things that they've never said. And I've witnessed it firsthand. And I'm telling you guys, it's very sad to see. You have no idea what these parents have said, haven't said, didn't do. And for simply invoking your rights to remain silent, for this to happen because you are, like, these are our rights and this is what's happening. And that's just, you want to say that, hey, Brian's her boyfriend. Brian was the last one to see her. Obviously, he's going to be suspect number one, and that's how it goes. But to sit here and say that his parents planned this with Brian weeks prior to when he flew home the first time, that's sick, in my opinion. And there's nothing that points to that. Because then I keep going back to this. Then why did Brian come home on September 1st and just lay low and do nothing until then we're going to go camping, and then he goes out for a hike / possible camp, parks the Mustang, and just walks off, never to be seen again. If they have an attorney and he speaks for them, wouldn't it be safe to say it depends on how the question was ever asked, in my opinion? Because then I'm just saying everything's going to look like, every little thing you do. If you had a ham sandwich, like, why are they having a ham sandwich? How can they even eat at a time like this? They should be having grapes. I just think that anything and everything that you do is going to be twisted and turned. Can we just flat out say that their lawyer, he's telling them to remain silent, right? Well, he can always just be like, they don't have a comment, no comment, no comment. So I've told my attorneys things numerous times and said something that I was like, that's not what I said. I said to do it this way or do it that. So I disagree with that. But my opinion on attorneys isn't high right now, so. That's great that it's out of their lawyer's mouth, but guess what I would do is if I got on the phone and saw that my attorney just did that, I'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? That's not what I said. So then it's going to look like what? Clearly a miscommunication leads to what? The parents are lying. Like I said, every little thing that they're going to do, it's going to be dissected. If his parents, in my opinion, helped their son plan a murder and get away with it, it's 2021. Your paper trail would be there. And I do believe that the FBI at this point would be able to file something on his parents. Just like how they came out with the whole credit card. I actually feel really bad for everything that John Walsh has gone through, but I do not condone anything that John Walsh has said publicly, speaking on the things that he said about Brian's parents. So no, I don't think that doesn't matter who you are or what you've accomplished, and that's all you heard him talk about. I brought 1,400 people, but that doesn't give you the right, though, to character assassinate and say the things that he said about Brian's parents, period. I think I covered this part. In Florida, in anywhere in the United States, you have to wait 48 hours. You can call, you can say, hey, my son never came back. Okay, well, we can't report him as a missing persons for 48 hours. When's the last time you saw him? And so they're trying to narrow down, okay, well, we saw him when he left, so it'll be at let's say 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, then they're going to take 48 hours from that point. So to sit here and say that they didn't report him missing, well, you can't report. You can report somebody missing, but they won't make the report until 48 hours. You'd have to ask those officials, again, these are facts that we don't have, as to, in fact, what time that phone call was made and all those things. But they're going to tell you, I just tried to do it with my neighbor not too long ago. And I had the police over here and everything. And we couldn't get into her house. We were knocking on the door. Her car was there. They said, well, when did you see her last? I said, well, yesterday at 3. They're like, well, technically she doesn't have to answer the door. She can, she's an adult. She can do what she wants. And I had thought that she had a stroke. So I was like, well, I don't think she's sound mind right now, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't matter. I had to wait 48 hours. So okay, if the FBI confirms that they gave them the wrong date, then the FBI would be saying things like, how did that wrong date happen? Again, if the FBI feels that they are interfering with an investigation, obstruction of justice, cuff them. Cuff them. Arrest them. If you have all this evidence against Brian, again, for Gabby's homicide, slap him with an arrest warrant. And right now, law enforcement isn't really doing any favors for Gabby's parents when they have all these questions and it's a circus out there. So, again, if that was my daughter, I'd want them on everything to do with her, and I wouldn't want it to be made about Brian. I'd want it to be about Gabby. It's 48 hours from the last time you saw them. I would agree, Blues Clues, that none of this, nobody deserves anything, and I don't think anybody's ever said that anybody deserves anything. Again, that's a comment that comes from emotion, deserving. I try to stick with the facts because it should be an unsaid thing. You shouldn't have to say those words, and I think that when you do, that's when I ask people, maybe you need to take a step back because you're getting a little too emotional here. Everybody knows, and if you don't, then maybe you need to go get yourself checked. But anybody that would ever say that anybody deserves something like this, they're not okay. Nobody deserves this, but I think that is something that doesn't even need to be said. And the facts is that there's nothing here. And if you want to talk about paper to paper, there's a homicide and a missing person. And now the missing person you slap with credit card fraud, and you've had a manhunt that has spent ridiculous amounts of money and manpower looking for somebody that has a warrant for credit card fraud. Meanwhile, what has law enforcement been doing to build a case so that Gabby gets justice? Because at the end of the day, you don't need Brian to get justice for Gabby. And the media isn't doing any favors by turning an eye, in my opinion, and not applying the pressure where it should actually be. And that should be getting, making sure law enforcement's doing their job for Gabby's investigation, for Gabby's case. I hope so. Didn't you saw the FBI guy interview? He said there's some problems with their story. Well, like anything, law enforcement, if there's problems, you need to do your job and sort those problems out. And like I said, right now, the media is doing you guys a huge favor, which I'm sorry, but I question what the agenda is here because, where's the media outlets that are hounding law enforcement for not about Brian, but about Gabby's investigation? Nobody is talking about Brian or Gabby's investigation. It's all about the circus looking for Brian, reporting about Dog the Bounty Hunter. Give me a fucking break. I'm sorry, but if I'm Gabby's parents, I don't want to hear that stuff. Like, you're not going to make my daughter's homicide into some reality like this. That is embarrassing. That is wrong. And I'm sorry, but that's how I would feel. And I think that, I'm just surprised it hasn't been said yet by Gabby's father. I don't know anything the FBI is doing. I was reading a comment, Sugar. Lana, how do you know what the FBI is doing? You have no idea what's going on behind the closed doors. I can tell that Dr. Hill just joined us because that's been the whole point of this live, honey. But thank you so much. Thank you for proving my point by trying to be an asshole. Thank you. Jane believes that, she said, I'm sorry, but in order to get justice for Gabby, you have to talk to the last person to see her come on. That's common sense. And I'm going to sit here and tell you that is 100% not true. What defendant do you ever get to talk to that's actually in a courtroom that doesn't take the stand and that has a lawyer prior to being arrested? Did you get to ask them any questions? For example, I can't even think of who's the last defendant ever to take the stand again. I mean, in a big time case to testify. I mean, yep. I'm back. Crazy Chick says, who was the last person to talk to her? See, we don't know. That'd be speculation to say that Brian was the last person. I would love to know what the DNA under Gabby's fingernails shows. That would be very telling to me. If there's any DNA under Gabby's fingers. Yeah, Jane, what I'm trying to say is that you can get justice, proper justice for Gabby, with or without Brian. To be honest, it has nothing to do with their investigation because Brian's never going to talk. Even if you find him, he is not talking to you if you're in law enforcement. So the point of this live was to say, okay, guys, here it is. When is it going to be enough focus on and attention with where Brian could possibly be versus law enforcement doing their job to make sure that Gabby can have proper justice by there's a sound investigation. They're putting together all this evidence, whether it is circumstantial, physical, eyewitnesses, whatever it may be. They have to be doing that. When you have multiple agencies involved, a lot of things aren't properly communicated. And that's just how it goes. Evidence should be sufficient enough to know what happened with or without Brian being in attendance. Correct. That's what should be there. And that's why I'm kind of getting, that question mark there as it pertains to with all these people thinking that Brian's parents are so guilty, Brian's so guilty, but yet the law enforcement agencies saying nothing about pretty much anything. And then when does it become law enforcement's, I guess you could say, duty to protect Brian's parents? And if they know that they are not involved, when is it time to make that announcement so that people could leave them alone? Again, law enforcement's just not saying anything. So as far as Dr. Hill saying that I know what the FBI is doing, that's 100% not what I'm saying. I'm saying that nobody knows anything because there are no facts. The facts are minimum, and that is leaving everybody to these wild speculations of theories and, unfortunately, crucifying Brian's parents. We are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, and more the media and the behavior of citizens of the United States are preventing that from actually occurring in the courtroom. And that needs to stop because people that have been found guilty and actually are innocent, it's because of stuff like this. Oh, Jay, no, I don't take it as anything. I take it as we're talking back and forth, and doing it respectfully. So thank you for the comment, but absolutely not. I don't take it as you're being disrespectful whatsoever. We're all going to have different opinions on that. I just really try to hone in on, I think the media is giving law enforcement a huge pass right now, and I want to know why. And they're using this manhunt to do it. They're allowing, that's what's happening, guys. All the attention's over here on this manhunt, and it's allowing law enforcement not to feel any type of pressure, urgency, and I don't know. I apologize. I did just turn on your live. I knew that you did by the comment, so apology accepted. Now don't do it again. No, I'm kidding. I think, guys, no doubt is what Brian missing. Is it not like where is he? How come nobody can find him? All these things. But the questions that I strongly have is literally, if you go and just look at everything and how it's just like this timeline of, okay, he flew back, but then he goes back, and then he brings. I mean, why? What's going on that all that's taking place? And then just prior, a couple days before that, they have the police pulling them over. There's a DV situation, and he left to, in my opinion, to escape the troublesome that they were having. It looked like they weren't getting along. And what do? You separate, right? So that you don't fight and things don't escalate. Especially, it would scare the shit out of me if I got pulled over by the police and I went through something like that for an hour and 15 minutes. And then somebody having to sleep, basically in a van. And that's just, they're young. They're 22, 23 years old. But then, them giving people thinking that Brian's this mastermind with his parents at 23, and that it was a plan to go out there, then to come back with, gonna go kill Gabby, come back, then I'm just gonna chill around for a little bit, then we're gonna go camping, and then I'm gonna disappear, and that's when I'm gonna go. And I just think that's a very odd way to go about something like that. But hey, if you think that's what he did and it was planned that way, look, it's working. Nobody's been able to find him. But there's something to it. And maybe there's something to it because Brian's got a bullet in his head and he's buried 4 feet under, and here they're all in the swamps, and Brian's just, and some gravel. Someone said that Brian knew when he he knew that he was wrong with what he did, and that's why he ran. Well, if that's the case, then why wouldn't you run, September 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Why wait? And then when people are saying, well, it's because they came there, they threatened to call the cops. Okay, well, again, I'd actually like to see some text messages of when they were starting to threaten to call the cops. Because I guess the way that I would be handling it is I wouldn't think that anything is wrong. I would be thinking, unless I had some reason not to think this way, but if my daughter is missing and her fiance is missing and they're across the country and I can't get a hold of either one of them, okay, and I don't think there's anything wrong in their relationship, if I can't get a hold of either one of them, then in my mindset I would be like, they're both missing. I wouldn't be like, my daughter's only missing. My daughter and her fiance, I haven't been able to talk to either one of them. I tried calling his phone then, after I couldn't try to call hers. I'd be thinking about it in terms of that they are missing, not she's just missing. So Jane Bingo, right there, she says it. Boom. He could have flown home, then went back. Well, that's what he did. He did fly home, and then he did go back. He could have even found her dead, because there were 2 women found dead in those woods as well. And nobody is talking about that. Nobody is talking about the fact that they're... Exactly. But it's like... And would that lead Brian to panic? Sure. Or like, oh my God, what do I do about this? And then knowing that you just had that DV call on you on August 12th. Exactly. You never know. But unless there's DNA that was found in the van that's not either one of theirs, and possibly, if Gabby was able to... I'm just hoping that Gabby was able to get her fingernails into whoever did this, and that there's... under her fingernails is DNA, is skin from whoever did this. And that Gabby's going to get her own justice like that because she, was a fighter. And it's truly sad, though, when people want to judge without knowing anything. And it's just not what the United States was built on. I also found it odd after Gabby's dad said, I'm going to call the cops if you don't call me back, and he still didn't get a call back. That makes him look guilty too. A normal person would have called. Yeah, but I guess what? Okay, so he should call the police though. Why is it if he didn't? Okay. The dad should be thinking that both Gabby and Brian are missing. So what do you mean when he called Brian and said, if you don't call me back, I'm calling the police? Why would he be saying that to Brian? He can't get a hold of his daughter. He can't get a hold of Brian. They're supposed to be off in Utah or off in, Cali, wherever they're supposed to be headed. Hey, Gabby. Hey, Brian. I haven't heard from you guys. Neither has your mother. I'm about to call the police, and I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know where you guys are at. Why haven't I heard from you guys? I guess I just wouldn't be thinking that my daughter is dead and that her boyfriend killed her or her fiance killed her. I would start getting nervous of that I can't get in touch with either one of them. But it would be a collectively me trying to, all right, well then I'm calling the cops because I'm trying, in which I wouldn't even know where to begin. If my kids are, or my daughter's off, driving around and she's supposed to check in and I haven't heard from her. And I thought the same thing. So I have a question though on when that missing persons report for Gabby, it was made in New York. And so if it was made in New York, why was it made in New York? Why was the missing persons not filed in Florida? If her dad was in Florida and he was at the house and that's when they filed it. Lori, that's absolutely. I think that the parents need to be completely out of this right now until there is evidence that they did something. I completely agree with that the parents should not be blamed at all at this point, especially just at this point. If there's evidence that comes about that they did something, absolutely, then they should be held accountable for their actions. Crazy chick, I have. That's why I'm saying what I'm trying to say is what I think it's what I find off about it is that I would be filing a missing persons report for both Gabby and Brian. I wouldn't just be filing a missing persons report for Gabby. Okay? I'd be filing it for both of them. But for it to only be filed for Gabby, then you're no different than what you're trying to claim his parents are doing. Why didn't you file a missing persons report for Brian and Gabby when you couldn't get a hold of them? And the report, from everything that I've looked up, the report and the call was prior to ever going to Florida, or him ever going to the house, rather, because he's there. So I would be thinking that my daughter and her fiance were missing. They were together. Why would I think that they, why would I only be reporting her? I would be reporting both of them. I can't get a hold of either one of them. I haven't seen them. First of all, I haven't seen them in months because they left on this trip, but wait, where is this one? Here we go. Her parents seem way more calm about how his parents are being handled. Maybe they know law enforcement is working every angle and trust if involved they will be held accountable. Yeah, I mean, I think at first I think at first her dad was pretty vocal about what he thought of Brian's parents. I think that everybody was told to taper off, and once the FBI became involved in taking over this case, they're just going to be like, I mean, this is what they do. Local little law enforcement aren't used to stuff like this, and I think it bullied around a little bit more by the media and more vocal, but the FBI is going to lock it up and going to tell people to lock it up. So I wouldn't be surprised, like Tasha said earlier, the FBI telling people, please, we can only ask, that you not, release this information or tell anybody about this because we want to preserve our investigation and be able to prosecute to the best of our ability. I agree with that. They found he was alive on the 10th. You are not making any sense. He was alive on the 10th. Gabby's mom had a hell of a time getting anybody to listen to file a missing persons. Do you not know that? Do you think that her mom just called that day and there's a missing persons for her out of New York? That's not how it went down. Because they found Gabby's body, that's why he ran. He was missing before they ever found her body. They found her body after he was already missing. See, that's where the miscommunication's coming in and out, because that's what was reported, that he then flew to Florida, but he didn't need to fly to Florida when he lives in Florida. See, that's where the media just took over, and you got people like Natasha Cooper's live streaming CNN and Fox and ABC and taking it as gospel. Usually your breaking news is going to be your worst news, because you have no idea what you're reporting. You're just live on site here, and we're going to talk about, you have no idea what's going on. And go watch all the live breaking news of people. None of that ever is what it is. Oh, wow, you watch Natasha Cooper? No, actually I don't. All I know is that she live streams me, and she live streams ABC, NBC. That's her thing, man. Come on now. Get with it. Oh, hell no. That was funny. I have to put that up there for you. Yes, he was gone before the... Yep, that's fact. Yeah, I just think there's a lot to this case. I don't think it's as cut and dry as people think, and I think it's proving to be just that. And that's what I'm trying to say. Let's take Brian out of the equation. Let's say that Brian was in cuffs. Let's say that Brian was in cuffs and in county being held. They still have to do their job. They still have to get the evidence. So finding Brian, not finding Brian, that doesn't change what law enforcement's job with Gabby's investigation. It doesn't change anything. They need to do their job. They need to be held accountable. And the media needs to apply that pressure and to make sure that's what they need to be doing with their time. Not live. Do you understand if the media would get the hell away from Brian's house, that those people would leave? They're going there to get just on television. She had to file a report on the state she went missing. Well, she didn't go missing in New York. Yes, the stepdad did fly to where they were. This is fact. Yes. Anyone watching Natasha needs a head check. I'm gonna leave that up for the rest of the rest of the live because that just made my day. That was funny. What's up, Canadian Mama? That was funny. But I have a question about. She had to file a report. That's the thing, is that Gabby didn't go missing. Gabby wasn't last seen in New York. Yes, you can call a welfare check and a wellness check. And so that's what I always advise people. In fact, that's what Kim Kaufman got pissed off about. I advised when Navy went to the meetup spot to get the children, and the children weren't brought and nobody came. And all I said was, well, if they're not answering your phone calls, I mean, you could do a like that's what, Nicole Atkinson did for Shanann. She did a wellness check. And you tell them the address that they live at, and they go and they knock on the door, and when somebody comes to the door, they say, is so-and-so here? We just got a call that, and we're just doing a wellness check. And that's like the number one thing that you should do. But see, what would be interesting with that is with a wellness check, if the parents open up the door and just said, well, no, she's not here. Okay. Well, do you know where she's at? No. Okay. All right, well, we just had her, dad or mom call, and they haven't heard from her. Okay, yeah, no, I haven't, like, something had to give there. Do you guys get what I'm trying to get at? Like, if her dad was told, or her mom, yeah, no, Gabby wasn't there. Okay. Well, did you ask if Brian was there? Because he was with her. So if Brian's there, all of that would have had to come out in some type of way. And I think that you would have strategically said that on the wellness check, that you're looking for both of them. And so if the cop had knocked on the door and said, is Gabby and Brian here? Gabby's parents are looking for her. They haven't talked to her in, X amount of days. This is the address that, but it's interesting to me that they would call and do a wellness check. I would be thinking that my kid and her fiance were in, Utah, Wyoming, out west. What would lead me to think that my kid or her fiance was in Florida at the house? You guys get what I'm trying to say? Like, why would I think that? Yes, it was. It was a jurisdiction issue. And sometimes police don't have all the answers. Like, okay, wait, is this on me? Is this on you? Like, what? They don't know. What's up with the 46 911 calls to the parents' house? Like, the parents called 911 46 times? Is that what I'm just trying to make sure I understand the question. Why would Lana think what, Mike? Talk to me. I hope you're doing good, Mike. Good to see you. Or good to see your name, rather. Okay, so what you're saying, Crazy Chick, is that what's up with Brian's parents calling the police, the 911, 46 times? Is that... While the officer must have talked to someone because they knew her van was in the garage, they had to have been told that. Or that's a simple drive-by, walk up the driveway, peek in the garage. I mean, if that's... There's plenty of ways, I think, to find out if the van was there. And if I thought something shady was going on, and I live in Florida, and I live by the house, I would get my happy ass in a vehicle, and I would drive over there myself and check on things if I, in fact, thought something was off. But to think that my daughter returned, that's just I would be thinking that my daughter was missing out west. It's just interesting to think that and do a wellness check there, because my thought process would be, well, they're going to, obviously they could say, oh yeah, they're here, but that wouldn't make any sense. But if they said they're not there, what does that get me? What is that going to tell me? I would physically have to go over there and maybe do a stakeout and see them open up the garage. Okay, now I know the van's there. Okay, where the fuck's Gabby? All right, now I'm going to, like that type of thing. And, I probably wouldn't be going on national news admitting that that's what I did. Who knows? Oh, thanks, Mike. Glad you're having fun. That's what it's all about. I'm about to go to Rudy's and nightcap it. Scream Mandy's name in the bathroom. For old time's sakes. Curly JK's having some fun tonight. Sometimes all the police know is where the Dunkin' Donuts is. You're giving me some laughs tonight. Thank you, Curly JK. I just think it's imperative to keep, for everybody to not hate on people invoking their rights. Like, come on, when that song became famous, we have a right to party. Everybody was fine with that. Everybody was all about people's rights to party. People have a right to invoke their right to remain silent, and they have a right to talk to an attorney. They have a right to, holy shit, why am I getting blasted from the left? What the hell's going on here? No, I don't know what Brian had. They broke up. That's what I was told. They broke up. She was supposed to come back here to get the van, and she hasn't returned. What do you mean? I thought that she flew home and was with you guys. Like, how that's not logical, that a parent wouldn't be getting involved with their 23-year-old son's relationship after a breakup. Then some of y'all are, maybe a little too controlling of your kids' lives. But, I mean, no, I wouldn't be like, oh, Gabby didn't come back. My fucking son killed her. I can't believe this motherfucker. Like, that's not going to go through my head as a parent. And if it does go through your head, then holy crap, then you probably should have reported your son earlier, thinking that he's capable of something like that. I agree. We have a lot of people, or a lot of businesses looking for people to work. I mean, shit, my Panera doesn't open on time anymore and closes early because nobody's working. And I can't get my damn sandwich. Just random days are closed because we have no workers. And yet everyone can go out and protest in front of the laundry's house. Like, what? No field trip tonight. Lana, don't trigger. That packet she's receiving is going to definitely trigger her. Can't wait till she reads it live. Wyoming 15-year-old girl is fighting for our rights. Got arrested. Mama 3, Lana was being praised on a different channel tonight. Had to stick around. Ooh, who was praising me? That's impressive. Probably praising me for my new mic. I was waiting for someone to comment, LOL, Mandy. Oh, well, that's very kind of truth teller. Oh, thanks, Mama. Yeah, tell everybody about that. Yeah, you guys make sure you guys hit that thumbs up or thumbs down it. Just either one, be honest. If you didn't like it, definitely throw a thumbs down. Don't lie on my behalf. My skin is way too thick for lies. Well, I said this was going to be a quick live, 60 minutes, and you guys kept me way too long. Well, I will end with one thing, and it's not thank you notes. It's, here we go. Again, guys, it is fact that Brian left and never came back home. So when people are saying, well, Brian ran, you guys, Brian flew home, was home for 6 or 7 days, then flew back to Utah, then drove a van almost across the United States, then was chilling at his parents' residence where he resides, then goes camping with his family, and then goes hiking, never to return. If that is the definition of Brian on the run, I don't see it. I see, because remember at the time, there's no media. No one knows that Gabby's missing. There's no report. There's no nothing. And he went hiking. Now people are going to say, well, how do we know he really went hiking? Well, how about this? It doesn't matter where. He left his home and never came back. He left his home, never came back. He left before, came back on 2 different occasions. Make it 3 with the camping trip. If Brian, it just doesn't seem normal for somebody to commit a homicide and to go on the run X amount of days later. And then you're going to have people say, well, it's because he was being threatened to be, to call the police or whatever. That still doesn't make sense in the mindset of, look, wouldn't you be shitting bricks the moment that you got in that van and began to drive it? Like, everything that you would be, like, spooked out over or, like, paranoid, but you're just chilling at home with your family and then going camping with them. And then, but lo and behold, the day that you don't come back home is also the day that Gabby's dad shows up. I'm just saying, like, these are like the facts. And so at one point we had 2 missing people. And then now we have a homicide, still a missing person, but they're not even considering a missing person. They're saying we have a manhunt for credit card fraud. I mean, why can't it be possible that somebody did bodily harm to Brian? Why can't that be a possibility? If people are going to say he ran, okay, that's a possibility. But is it also a possibility that somebody killed him? I think that it definitely is a possibility, and it's just not being talked about. S'mores and shit. Lana, do you think he is alive? How about this? I will say this. I don't believe that Brian committed suicide. I think that he would have been found if he went off to commit suicide, because let's hypothetically say Gabby's dad called him and said he's calling the cops or he's coming for him or whatever, and so he got out of Dodge, which doesn't make any sense to me because, but so be it. And he was just like, oh my God, like, I'm going to get caught, so I'm just going to go over here and, shoot myself. I think there's something very off with this whole thing. Something isn't right. Let's just say that. Something is missing. Something doesn't make sense, and that's what the logic is telling me. You're thinking like a normal person with some common sense. I take offense to that by just saying some there. I'm just kidding. We don't know how his mental health was. Actually, I'm not thinking like a normal person. I'm actually going off of the body cam. Okay? I know Linda Briss, Fox Miss, Shake It Down woman, says that, but it's okay for Lana to hang on to every single word that Brian says. Lynn, it's okay for me to do that because that's what the cops did. The cops listened to him, and those cops bought his story. If you think it's a story, they bought it, okay? Neither one of them got arrested. And a guy says, who's 23 years old, well, can you just take me instead? Now, if he is that, my hairdresser said, well, Lana, you've never seen some people that are master manipulators, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, but to the cops basically saying, like, okay, yeah, give me the DV, like, I'll go to, I mean, you're talking like a serious Dr. Hyde, Jekyll type crap, and I didn't get that vibe from him. I don't get those type of vibe from people that are nature-loving people. Nature lovers, people that are just like, man, I just want to go hug a tree and, go hiking for 5-6 hours. Like, that just doesn't fit the... You're living with your parents. How are you beating the shit out of your girlfriend or fiance at your parents' house and throwing her around or doing anything like that? Because that's what kind of people say, like, oh, well, out to the world, they're just whatever. But then behind closed doors, they're so abusive. Well, if it's just you and that person living at home, but his family is living there, and, to be able to, just all of that type of stuff, when you take everything into account and you think, and then he left and then he came back, that's the question for me. Why did he leave and why he went back? That's everything to me in this case. And I would love to know that. And was the ticket a one-way ticket or a round-trip ticket? Was he planning on coming back, or did he leave and just buy flying back home? And then, okay, then we talked. After a couple of days, okay, fine, I'll come and get the van. That to me is everything. Why would Brian return? And according to a lot of people out there, especially one of them tonight just said it, he returned so that he could plan this murder and that his parents could get things rolling for them and that he could get away with murder. And I just don't see that at all. You know, if Brian's in control of the situation and he just has his way with Gabby, then why did he need to leave? Why did he need to leave Utah? Why would he leave Utah? You know, if he's this, like, big, bad, abusive person and, yada, 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 why did he leave? I can control this person. Shit, when she just gets mouthy or whatever, I just smack her around. You know what I mean? Why did he leave Utah and fly home to Florida? Oh, I waltzed in at the perfect time because I'm completely hung up on the flight. It actually makes perfect sense to me. The flight makes, honestly, a lot of sense to me. This is the flight, guys. They just went through the domestic violence, almost both of them getting in trouble, or at least one person. They're clearly not doing well. They're arguing and bickering, and you could tell that they can push each other's buttons. Like, that's what when you do that little bicker back and forth. Well, somebody finally had some sense, and it was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, so we're going back. Like, this is over. We're ending this. Like, I'm not having another, episode, and we just totally dodged a bullet with the police. So we're going back. And then Gabby's like, no, this is my van. And nope, you're not driving it, and we're staying, we're not going back yet. Da-da-da. Somebody didn't want to leave, okay? And clearly, if Brian's the one that got on a plane and flew to Florida, it sounds like he's the one that wanted to leave and didn't want to be there anymore, right? Otherwise, he would stay, right? If Gabby said, this is my van, you're not sleeping in it anymore, blah, 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 leave, da-da-da-da. Don't you think that Gabby would have called a friend, somebody even she didn't want to call her parents, and say, well, I told Brian he's not allowed to stay anymore. We broke up. He's flying back. Like, that would have happened some way, somehow. I believe that Brian was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. We're going back. And if it is her van, nope, I'm not ready to go. Okay, well, then I'm leaving. He got on a plane and he left. I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. We've been doing this for the past 2 months. Like, think about that. That's gonna wear on you. He left. Now the question is, why did he go back? And if Brian is the Brian that I saw on that cam, and his girlfriend's crying to him every night, leaving messages. You guys know what a breakup is at 22 and 23 years old. Like, it's so dramatic, and oh my God. okay, please just come back. Okay, I'll even fly back. You can take the van, and I just can't do this myself. Like, there's no way I can get back by myself. Please don't, that type of talk. Okay, fine. I'm coming back. I'll drive the van, and you fly back. You fly back to, New York and figure out what you're going to do. I'll keep the van here for you until you figure out what's going on. But, we need some time apart. But I will come and get the van and bring it back. Now, to me, if anybody says that is not a logical scenario, then I question the way you would think. Because he's the one that left and got on a plane. Why? Because it's not his van and she didn't want to leave. So he said, okay, Gabby, they just got in trouble on August 12th because he tried to take the keys from her and and then lock her out because he needed her to cool down. That was a statement. Okay, well, he wasn't going to go down that path again and have the police back yet again. So, okay, you know what? Here, it is your van. Here you go. I'm out. If you're not dropping me off at the airport, then I'm going to, get a ride. But either way you look at it, Brian's the one that left and got on a plane. Now, why did Brian come back? And if people are really out there saying he went back there to murder her, he already left once and got away from it all. Ugh. Now he's just deciding, you know what? I'm going to go back there because I can't believe that I let her not let me sleep in the van. It doesn't make any sense. It was a breakup. Guys, they were breaking up. But you have to think how 22 and 23-year-olds break up. People getting those little tiffy fights. Well, here, somebody got on a plane. This wasn't just going and hanging out with your friends for a couple hours, then you come back home and you get in late, and then your person's like, where the fuck have you been? Fuck you, blah, blah, blah. No. Somebody got on a plane, and that somebody was Brian. He left. Why did he go back? I agree. Nothing was planned. I don't think anything was planned. I don't think him or his parents planned anything, but it's not uncommon for young couples to break up and get back together. Their relationship seemed toxic. Absolutely. Absolutely. So can you not see, okay, come back, or, and think about this. If Brian flew, okay, which they have all the surveillance, what bags did he have with him? And if I believe that Brian's gun, if it wasn't at the house and he didn't leave it back, it would have been with that van. He can't get on a plane with a gun, guys. I'm sorry, you can't. So the gun would have been left with that van, with her, when he left to get on that plane. He's not bringing back the gun. You're not going to get through and put my gun in. I mean, I guess you could try to get it through in your bag, but that's not how domestic violence works, Lana. It's all good, and a second later, you are being hit. That's if there was domestic violence in their relationship. And I'm saying that they lived with his parents, and I think it would be very difficult to beat your fiance, your girlfriend, while living with your parents. And no one catching on to, I don't know, someone throwing you into the wall and hearing a thud sound. And, oh, that's just us having sex up here. Don't worry, Mom. We're okay. I don't see the, I'm not saying that they didn't have a toxic, I think that they had a bickering relationship, that's what I saw from it. Of course the van's going to get dirty in the back. You guys are in and out hiking and van lifing it. It's not going to be, a little tiny house that's I just saw a very young, two very young people, like they just seem like very innocent. Like when I say innocent, I mean like they haven't experienced anything in life. They're 22 and 23 years old. They didn't go away to college. I don't know. Mike Drop Mama, it's logical, but what kind of piece of pussy man leaves her alone in the desert? Who's to say they were in the desert? Who's to say that they weren't at a hotel room? I want to know what she did for a week while he was in Florida. What did she do there? Was she on her Bumble trying to make a friend? I mean, I want to know how nobody that's a social media person, who was she talking to? Did she invite anybody into her hotel room? Did I would love to know what that pizza order was. Did it seem like it could be for two? Was the toppings half one way and half the other way? Normally when you order a pizza just for yourself, you're going to get all the toppings that you want all over it. So, but if I'm with somebody else, okay, they like pepperoni and I like sausage. Okay, so half and half. I would love to know what the order was. I don't see how anybody could be by themselves for a week and nobody not know that. At least one person not know that she was there by herself because Brian had left. Oh, here we go. Unless the parents enabled his behavior, I say this respectively, objectively, of course, Lana love. I know you love, girl, but so now not only did his parents enable his abuse, but then they helped him plan a murder and get away with it and do this all under the noses of the FBI and multiple law enforcement agencies. I think that they should work for the FBI if they are any way, shape, or form involved, and he is in some safe house. Then maybe the FBI needs to buck up. Yes, she was in a hotel. So yeah, he didn't leave her in a desert. Now, if you're talking about, we have no idea if he left in a desert. We have no idea that when he arrived back. I mean, it's all. Again, when did he arrive back? Who picked him up from the airport? Okay, where did they go then? Did he fly into, Salt Lake City? Where'd they go? What was the plan when he was going to arrive back if it wasn't to leave? How much do we really know about? Exactly. We know nothing. Nobody knows anything. That's why I love digital evidence, because it's your footprints. How about those Red Sox? There you go. In the video, she didn't freak out until they were going to separate them. It's sad that her life was taken. I feel like, she was hyperventilating. That's why he actually had her get out of the vehicle. So she was. I thought that she actually became calm when she found out that she was not going to jail. That he wasn't going to be doing anything like that. Yes, I love Italian sausage. Why, you want some? The cops were there. If they deemed that not to be a domestic violence, more a mental health crisis, like I totally am on board with that. She's saying, I'm having, I'm OCD. She is telling this officer. They were both nervous too. I mean, who isn't nervous when you talk to police officers? Come on. Oh, thank you, Patty H. Appreciate it. Lana, there will be a press release with the details of the autopsy tomorrow. What do you think they will actually cover? They are not going to talk about... Let me think They're going to be 100% respectful for the family, number one. So nothing is going to come out that would be... I don't see... I mean, I think the number one thing that I would want to know is if they could put a time of death on that based on, I mean, there's numerous ways to do that. What was present when they found her body. I'm very curious at the time of death that they, I think they're going to be very general with it and respectful of the family. And I think that if there was like a gunshot wound, they would say something about that. I don't think that they would hide the fact that if it was like a gunshot wound. I think all of this extra stuff is going to be if they take questions from the media. I'd have some questions about physical evidence. I'd have questions if they believe her body was moved or anything like that. Was it buried? I'm wondering if the coroner is going to have the assistant who assisted him present as well, because this is something that Wyoming I think has had in 2019. I want to say 13 homicides, and Florida had 11 or 1,300. So. I think that she was partially buried. That's my guess. It doesn't seem as though she was buried. I'm going to say that I believe that there was some type of trying to conceal. I'm wondering if she committed suicide and then he followed suit. I mean, that's absolutely possible. Again, this whole time frame, though, of him coming home, of everything to do with all of that, is just... It's almost like think about it. It's like when he left and was driving this van, he just went about like that he didn't know anything had happened. So is it possible that they got another one of their tiffs? He goes off, he comes back to the van, she's not there. Where is she? And then he finds her, panics. Is that possible? Yeah, I mean, that's possible. Like somebody already said, 2 other people, were found near to that area. If Brian is innocent, the only way that I see that happened is Brian leaving with the van, because that was the plan, was to leave with that van. So if in fact she had or found friends or something like that she was kicking it with, he gets picked up from the airport. She's gonna fly out, but hanging out with these people for a couple days, and he was to leave, and that type of, but it would have to be planned that he was bringing that, back, and if there was any way to prove that. But it's like he just went about his days, not trying to do anything, not thinking someone's going to show up or anything like that, not trying to get away before they come. But the day of when Gabby's father shows up is the day that he's never then seen again. Why wouldn't you leave before that, whatever that interaction could possibly take place? So I don't know. A lot of questions. I've been on this for over I clicked the wrong one. When you talk about all the controlling things that Brian did, someone who has to have tabs on his lady when, say, can I go to jail instead, knowing that she'd have the night out and could leave. I didn't say she was buried. I said the body was attempted to be concealed. Buried. She wasn't like buried underground. Attempting to conceal her body. So maybe I should have made that more clear. So attempting to conceal her body could be a lot of things. I mean, I don't see too many people out there having shovels to dig. But then again, van life, you may have shovels. I don't know. Yeah. Mama 3, I'm going to tell you why I haven't, I think I haven't gone down the, these are the facts, these aren't the facts. This hasn't been, you can't, Brian left, Brian came back, why? What was the plan? That's a pretty... It's not a cheap ticket. Was it a one-way? Was it not a one-way? Was it a round trip? Because that's when I shook my head. I was like, why would somebody, knowing that they're doing this, schedule something they have to come home for? I said, oh, maybe it was medicine. Maybe they had to go pick up some prescriptions, and he was bringing some prescriptions back. And then that's just not, your doctor can call stuff in to CVS's around wherever you're at, especially with the pandemic that just happened. You can do tele visits. But again, they are 22 and 23. They're thinking differently than myself. Now that's interesting. Do you think that they'll release the toxicology report? I believe that they never try to show a victim in bad light. So, it will definitely be interesting what they choose to talk about. Also, maybe what the autopsy, what they couldn't find and what they could. I mean, they ruled on a homicide pretty quickly, and that leads me to believe that something was very obvious. So, it was violent. Well, him being home for 10 days and not running is confusing to me if he was guilty. Yeah, I think people are really missing that. It's not even that he just... I think the leaving, the going back, then bringing back the van. Why would you ever bring back the van? Why wouldn't you just get another plane and leave? Why would you drive back the van? Because you panicked and didn't know what to do? So I'm just going to drive this van. I mean, that just... And then I'm going to park the van at the house so that when her dad does come, he sees the van. I mean, but yet you guys think that he is a mastermind trying to elude the... Like, that's just crazy. I mean, he would have had to stop 7 times at least to get gas. And to get home by September 1st. To do that 34 hours and 10 minutes. Plus you have to add in the stops to get gas. And then you're not what? You're not going to sleep at all? Yes, and technically, a homicide is anything that's not a natural cause, so I wonder if they're leaving some wiggle room there. How much fuel and food do you think for a 30-plus hour drive? I did the math on that. I said it would be, because I did the fuel tank, and it had, you could travel... It was like 300 miles before you need to get gas. I did a whole spreadsheet actually on it. Where is it? There it is, 350. Yeah, because it was between 325 and 375 was miles that you're going to get for your full tank. Those are mostly highway miles. Opinions are always welcome. It's everybody can state their opinion with class, respect, and I've never blocked anybody for stating an opinion. So please always feel free to comment, and we definitely don't stalk your chats and other chats to follow you. So, but yeah, I think we came up with 350 miles for your full tank. 7 stops. I mean, in food, I'm guessing that someone like Brian, it's bare minimum, so... It'd be interesting if is Brian a fast food eater or not. You know, then think about this, though, someone that just committed a homicide, and the last thing they're thinking about is what fucking food they're eating, but then again, if they're like a psycho, that nothing would faze them. Gotta go. It's been late where I live. Oh, well, hopefully get some rest there. Thank you, Lana. That was refreshing. You're very welcome. Don't want to be followed. Just saying, yep. Stay clear of the stalkers. Yeah, my only guess is that they have it. They just haven't released it. But what I just find, I get that why the FBI hasn't released anything, but I'm just shocked that the leaks haven't come where somebody knows that they could sell that footage and make a pretty penny right now from one of these media outlets. And money makes people do, you know, crazy things. And just because the FBI says don't do something, you know, they're not going to really get that much trouble, I don't believe, if they sold a surveillance video of Brian pumping gas and walking in and paying for it. You know, I also question, again, somebody that's a mastermind is not been able to be found by anybody. His parents are helping him. It's been planned, but yet has a paper trail with Gabby's credit cards or her parents' credit cards, depending on whose they were. Because they never talked about whose they were. They just said that they weren't his because obviously they're the way that they're charging him. So, again, that just, that's interesting. Yeah, it wasn't just 30 hours. I mean, it's 34 hours plus all the stops. And then, like I said, if you're not sleeping, I mean, there's no way you're doing that in under 40 hours. Like, there's just no way. And if you're able to, I'm literally, then this guy is a mastermind and an insomniac. Could have been his parents' gas card and it was used unauthorized. His parents? Yeah, but see, it's somebody that pressed charges on it to say that he wasn't authorized. So I don't think his parents are going to be saying that my son wasn't authorized to use our credit card. I don't see that happening. But hey. I'm dead. Dog is off the case with a sprained ankle. What is he driving again? Who, dog? He's driving a van. Yeah, and they were probably... Now, if Gabby, like, people that age have, you know, debit cards or credit cards that are actually in their parents' name that they give to their kids to use for emergencies, just because there's, like, more of a credit limit, especially if they're going off and doing what they're doing, you want to make sure that your kid's not, I don't know. You would just think that with, like, Zelle and Cash App and all these ways to get money, you know, electronically, that you wouldn't need to do that anymore. But, hey, again, all that's just really interesting because when you're looking at a credit card or a debit cards sometimes they're pending for a while depending on how the company batches their system out. So you may get charged on the 17th, but really you purchased it and you were there on the 12th or 13th. But it goes through because, like, again, however their system's set up. Credit cards are for the most part that day. Again, could he be using the cards, trying to make it seem like that she's still alive longer than she really was? Who's to say it wasn't her really using it? I think that has to do with time of death, and when those cards were used. It'll be interesting what they say tomorrow. It definitely will be. Good evening, everybody. Everybody sleep well. I know I am. But if I was to ballpark a number, though, on how much I think that trip would cost, Brian style, no more than $500. No more than $500. 7 gas tanks at $50 is $350. And $150 in food. And that's, I mean, who needs that much money for food, like, for that? But, I mean, I even think that that's high. Unless he got a hotel room. But I'm still going max of $500. Final answer. That'd be my Price is Right answer. I would probably even go like $379. $388. $402. $1. He spent a lot of money on the way back. Yeah, logic points to the fact that they had broken up. That's why he flew back. And then he flew back to get the van, or to at least help her drive it back, or if the plan was to, for her to fly back to New York or whatever, for them to, depending on how this breakup was going to work. But he clearly left the trip. I do probably believe at some point he probably said, well, we can just head back, and that wasn't going to fly, so he then just flew back. The question is why did he fly back to Utah? Was it a one-way? Was it a round trip? Who took him to the airport? Who picked him up? Where did they stay when they got back? And who did she come across in the week that he was gone? Well, if Gabby told her dad about the first trip flying back, he's not claiming that. So, everything revolves around that trip, why he left and then why he went back, and then what occurred the week that he was in Florida and she was in Utah. Nobody just sits in a hotel room and stares at a wall for 6 or 7 straight days, not talking to anybody. That's just, don't get this wrong. Let me rephrase this. Somebody that is struggling with mental illness, possibly. And that's what the police said. The police said this wasn't a domestic violence issue. This was a mental health crisis. Which I question, because mental health nowadays is leading to murders and homicides. When people aren't taking their medication, people are going off the wall and, doing things that they wouldn't have ever done had they been on their medication still. So brushing off a mental health crisis, that's questionable, but I don't blame the police at all. They made their decision. There's a lot of decisions that you make as a police officer that are, on duty call type of thing. It's no different than deciding whether or not to ticket me for speeding. I was technically speeding. I was going 27 and 25. But you don't get a ticket. Why? Who knows? But those cops didn't feel that anybody was in danger. And I feel bad for the cops because for the rest of their lives they have to live with that. That just sucks, but I think that's not accurate. She also said at the traffic stop that she cannot be without him. So how come she was cool for him to go clean out of storage? It's because that's not what it was about. He didn't leave to go clean out of storage. I think that's what telephone does to people, though. Nobody leaves to go clean out some storage. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But you would leave if you are having arguments again, and then you say, okay, we need to go back, like, this isn't working. And then one person's like, no, I'm staying. We still haven't gone to this place. Well, no, we're not going to those places. Like, we're fighting all the time. This is over, or we need a break, or whatever. Brian got on a plane and flew back. Why? And it wasn't to go clean storage randomly. That doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is that they broke up. They broke up and they were struggling in their relationship and they were fighting all the time. And they've already dodged one bullet with the August 12th. I'm not getting pulled over again or finding myself, with the cops again. So, okay, if this is your van and you don't want to go back, I'm flying home. And then it would make sense as to why you're going to a storage unit, and that could be to put her stuff in storage because they were no longer going to be together. Yes, I have. I have been in a ride-along. Why would you get on a plane and pay $300, if not more, to fly there and back to help clean storage when the logical thing to do is to pay your friend $100 to go do that with your dad and save yourself $200 or $300? Again, logic. Law enforcement always knows more than they're saying. Also, I've sat in a courtroom where I've witnessed a day in the courtroom and how I reported what I saw and then how this other person reported what they had seen, we're seeing the same thing. How are you reporting it that way? And how am I reporting it this way? And that's when I realized that, damn, it's, it's crazy what a narrative, what an agenda by the media can do. And the spin that they can put on it. Ding, ding, ding. If the parents are willing to do all of this now for Brian, I'm sure they could have found somebody to help clean out the storage. Exactly. My mom and dad wouldn't be calling me up. I mean, you need to get your fucking ass home and help me clean up this fucking storage unit. You know that, right? What? Yeah, you little shit. Get the fuck home. What? What? Why do we have to clean out the storage unit? What's the problem? What are you putting in there? Why? Why? Why does this storage unit need to be cleaned? You guys moving? In high school, if I ever got in trouble, that was part of my punishment, going on a ride along. Oh, God. I mean, the amount they're spending on storage, definitely the plane ticket wasn't cheaper. It's just, when I heard that, I was like, no, someone's not reporting it right. What do you mean he went home to help his dad clean out a storage unit? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, none. Hey, you motherfucker, you better get your ass home. I've been paying for this trip the whole fucking time. And now I'm gonna pay for you to fly home so you can help me move this fucking shit. All year and Gabby's shit is all over the fucking house, putting it in storage. Like, what? Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah, and then you can pay for Gabby to have a hotel for the whole week by herself. Run that bill up too. What? And then what parent is like, yeah, you should leave Gabby by herself to come help me clean out the storage unit? What? No, people, that's not the truth. And it's not that the parents are lying. It's who's reporting on this fucking shit, didn't get it right, and they need to be... They got half of it, and it's because they didn't understand it at the time. Emotions. The breakup. New York Times wrong, you say? After what I've witnessed, like I said, media, where are they getting it from? Where are they getting that story from? That he flew home to help his dad clear out a storage unit. Again, did he buy... Then that would tell me that he bought a round-trip ticket. Because you're going back. You're planning on going back. So therefore, a one-way ticket would be the way that you would purchase that. Was it a one-way ticket? I mean, not a one-way. It would be a round-trip ticket. That's how you would purchase that ticket. Was it a round-trip ticket? Or was it a one-way and then another one-way? Because he had left. So I want to know if it was a round-trip or a one-way. Well, it must have been round-trip because he went back. That is not accurate. That is not true. If I wasn't planning on coming back, I'd buy a one-way because I'm not planning on coming back because I'm leaving because we broke up and you're acting crazy. I'm telling you that we need to head back. I'm not doing this anymore with you. And then you say, no, this is your van and you're staying. So I said, okay, well, I'm leaving. And I'm going to get on a plane. Then are you going to drop me off at the airport? Nope. Okay, that's fine. I'll hitchhike. Or she dropped him. Either way you look at it. You get on a plane and you head home because you left. Now, what brought you back? All storage units have surveillance. Ask Lori. Well, you guys can do that. Have you forgotten? No, I haven't forgotten anything. I'm going based off of. So what's your point about being dropped off? What about that? I don't have my crystal ball on me. How we forget key little what does this have to do with flying? What does this have to do with flying? I'm just interested, like I said, we're going to go back to everything that I said, which is I want to know if it was a round trip ticket that was purchased, when the ticket was actually purchased, okay? Did you purchase it like 2 weeks ago because you knew that you had to go help your dad do this? Was it purchased a day before you flew out? When was it purchased? Was it one way? Was it round trip? How'd you get to the airport? Who picked you up in Florida? Who then took you back to the airport in Florida, and then who picked you up in Utah? If, in fact, you flew into Salt Lake City. And you guys can all rest your heads on that. And I'm going to go to bed. Sweet dreams. Great chat, though. Way to be kind and chat, love. Thank you, mods. Love all of your guys' names. Airport check, storage check, hotel check, gas check. That doesn't sound like van life to me. Just saying. Good night, Jane. Let's see. Oh my. Okay, he flew there, and speculation that he flew back. Okay, cool. He came back and an argument ensued. He left and hitchhiked, meeting two different hitches. Okay. Thank you, Miss Calvin, or Mrs. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Yes, I do. I think she was damned if she did and damned if she didn't talk. They were still gonna like just write about whatever, and I think the only reason she talked was because of her kids. That's what I think. But I definitely don't think that. Why would you want to go out there and purposely lie when you can just not say anything? Just, yeah. So, good night. I live not far. Yeah, for the airport. Yeah, it's usually not that. It's not that cheap to do it. So, just curious if it was a round trip or a one way, and when was it purchased. But yes, something is missing to their pie. But then again, this is with the FBI, so they're always going to be way more tight-lipped. But if the media would stop being over at Brian's house showing the squatters and actually go and put pressure on law enforcement to make sure they're doing a good job with the investigation to get proper justice for Gabby, that's what needs to happen. Not video recording the squatters over on the side of on the road. Laura, you start talking about other channels and spew your hate. I can't take you seriously. I'm out. What are you talking about? Have a good night. I hope you sleep well.